The chess radio waves have been absolutely dominated for the past couple of weeks by one story in particular, the chess cheating scandal between Vladimir Kramnik and Hikaru Nakamura. But there's been one story that has been passing by unnoticed until now. I'm talking about a tournament happening in Zagreb, Croatia, the Tournament of Peace, in which one Hans Niemann is absolutely dominating the field. We're going to analyze his games, and I'm going to show you how brilliant a player Hans can be. We're going to start with game number 1. He's facing, with the black pieces, Alexander Motylev from Russia originally, right now representing and playing for Romania. Alexander Motylev is nowadays mostly known as a coach, very good women's coach in particular. He just recently won the European Club Cup with a team of Superbet. He also won a lot of international competitions, leading Team Russia, women's team of Russia. Very, very good player, about 26-20 nowadays, but at his peak, he was very close to 2,700. Now let's take a look at this game. And I'm going to go through the critical moments only because there's so many games. We will analyze 6 games. I'm going to show you 6 games. And I'm just simply going to show you from the beginning of the critical moments and how Hans has conducted the conversion phase of the game. In this one, as we can see, Hans with the black pieces, he's a pawn down, but he has tremendous compensation in the endgame because of the weakness of the light squares. This knight jumping to b3 and the 2 bishops as well. This should be enough compensation for equality. Not more than that, but we will see how easily he outplayed his opponent in this one. Take a look at this. Bishop to e3, very normal move. Bishop c7, rook to d1, and knight to c4. You can already start sensing the danger surrounding white's position. h6, not even taking on e5, the pawn back, just waiting with the move h6, and in fact just trying to get more space perhaps. Rook to d8, no, not g5. Knight to d4, rook to d5, and now he's going to be focused on the d file. Bishop takes e5, finally re-establishing the material balance. Knight to b4, and now things are already starting to go astray for white. 2 bishops for black, but still tremendous pressure on white's position, particularly given by the dominance of the knight on c4. Very beautiful knight, really controlling white's position. h4, over extension by white. G takes h4, just simply grabbing that pawn, gifted to me. You cannot take on h6. You don't have time to reestablish the material balance because you lose on b2. King to e2, and now we will just simply go through the motions and see how beautiful he understood the strategical concepts of this position. And I have to say, he had a tremendous grip, Hans, that is for the remainder of the game, as we will see in just a second. Bishop takes d4, bishop to c6, check. Now we have the opposite color bishops. King to f2, exchange, a rook to g6, forcing the rook to g1, and now white is absolutely stuck. Because you would love to play the move g3 and try to exchange the pawns from g2 and h4. The problem is, whenever you play the move g3, I just simply pass by. I go h3. I follow it up with h2, for example, g3, h3. The game is over. You cannot stop me from going h2. I have full control over this diagonal. h2, h1 is coming, and that's all she wrote. So white is absolutely stuck in this position, and Hans understood that, and now the simple march of the king will just simply finish the game. Bishop to e3, I'm going to give up my pawn to open up the avenue for my king to infiltrate and finish the game, create another passer, the pawn on the a file, and that's it. King to b3. Nice move to finish the game. Just simply rook back, passing the time, but you are in Zuzvan as of right now. You just simply don't have any moves in the position. And Motylev said, okay, that's enough. I've had enough. You got it, Hans. Congratulations. For example, if you go king to f1, now I can just simply go rook to c8, king to f2, and I'm going on the other side. Rook to c2, check. You cannot go on the first rank anymore because you lose the bishop on c1, and if you go to e3, then I'm just simply picking up the pawn on g2, then running my h-pawn, and that's game over. Beautiful game by Hans. In the second round, he made a draw, the only draw of the event, and let's jump straight to round 3. In round 3, with the white pieces, Hans is facing the legend himself, Vasily Ivanchuk, who obviously is not anymore at his peak, but he's such a legend. Still 26-53, a very respectable rating, in fact, very close to Hans's rating as well. So let's take a look at what happened. Hans with the white pieces. We got this, I believe it was a Petrov. This one, slight advantage for white, not something major. But right now, Hans understands the requirements of the position. After the move rook to e8, black is just trying to exchange pieces. You need to be fast as white if you want to have any sort of advantage. And he understands that. He plays the move h4. Beautiful move, softening up the king side for white. h5, h takes, and if I do have a pair of rooks remaining on the board at that particular moment, once the h file opens up, I'm going to swing over, and I'm probably going to checkmate you. So you have to be very careful as black. Knight to e8. Vasily is trying to exchange the knight as fast as possible. h5, knight e6, and knight f3. Good move by Hans, just keeping the knights on the board. Very important to keep the knights on the board. Also redirecting his knight to e5, a more central square, from which you will maybe be able to sacrifice at one point around the king side, around the square g6. c6, rook to h1, g5, knight to e5, and h6. Black is trying to create this sort of cocoon, right? He's just trying to be a fighter on the ropes right now. g5, queen to f5, beautiful conversion by Hans. He's threatening the move, queen to f6. You have to stop that with the move knight to g7. Take advantage of the fact that the queen is there. And queen to d7. This is a tremendous move. Maybe something that was missed by Ivanchuk from afar. You cannot, I mean, you can take, but after knight takes d7 and this happened, rook takes e1, rook takes e1. Well, you don't even have to take on e1 first. He played the move knight to f6, and I really like this move for the simple fact that it forces the king in the corner. It accomplishes the same thing of controlling the e8 square. There's no rook to e8 and the exchange of the rooks, obviously, because you just simply lose the rook. But additionally, it also forces the king to be in the corner on h8. And after that, after the move knight to e6, which Ivanchuk played, rook to e5, a5, knight to g4, king to h7, and rook to f5, transferring the rook to f6, that's going to create even more tension in the position. And as we can see right now, at some point you're going to run out of moves. He did. Ivanchuk forced to play the move rook to c8. That's a pawn down, and the conversion after that was absolutely immaculate. Rook to d8, and Ivanchuk was like, nope, I've had enough. This is a very, very sad position. I mean, you cannot even go rook to e7 and try to say that maybe you get some sort of counter chances, because now you just have to resign in a couple of moves by force. Check, check, I pick up the rook, the game is over. A beautiful game by Hans Niemann to go 2.5 out of 3. In round 4, he plays Kozul Zdenko. Not, you know, not a player at his peak, but this guy has been a tremendous force in Croatian chess. In fact, he's a player that I defeated to make my final norms at the European Chess Championship. He was one of the players that really helped get that rating performance up. He was about 2600 at the time when I defeated him. Right now, 2531. And Hans plays the Benoni. He's like, okay, you're a bit lower rated. I want to get some interesting positions. Maybe I'll take some risks, but again, a low rated opponent, I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to play for a win, and it pays off. Take a look at this. After the move f3, this is where all of White's troubles start. Bishop to d4 first, king to h2, knight takes, and bishop to e3. This is the critical idea. You first have to transfer this bishop to exchange it with the bishop on f4. And once the dark square bishops get traded off, well, first of all, I'm going to have a tremendous grip on the position with something, a piece on e3. You're not going to be able to play the move e4. And if you're not able to play the move e4, then your bishop on g2 is going to get pretty much stuck on g2. And my bishop on f5 is going to have a tremendous diagonal to operate on. So this is what we got. Queen to a4, rook takes b6, nice transition. Understanding the fact that your pawn on the d file is not as powerful as my pawn on the c file, as well as my pawn on the a file if you allow it to leave. White says, no, I'm not going to allow that to leave. But again, it's all about this grip given by the rook on e3. There's no e4. There's not anything clogging this diagonal, the h7 b1 diagonal, and the bishop is going to support the push of the pawn, and that's going to come with tremendous consequences. Rook to c6, queen to b2, beautiful move again, c3, absolutely flawless execution by Hans. Rook to d1, not even c1. I'm not even interested in taking your exchange. I want to get a queen. I want to get a second queen on the board. Very nice, queen to d4. You cannot take, I mean, you can take, but it doesn't really matter. I'm giving you a check, I'm giving you another check, and that's actually a checkmate on the board. You don't have bishop to f3. So far, so good for Hans, I have to say. Beautiful execution in the Benoni. Next round, he's facing Robert Zelic. I believe this might be the lowest rated player in the event. Another grandmaster from Croatia, 2478. And again, we're starting from the critical moments. White has already established a very nice presence, very close to promotion on the queen side. But all the action is in fact going to happen on the other side, on the king side. Take a look at this. g5, take on b4. Black is trying to get some sort of compensation. He's trying to do something, right? But nothing is happening. Take on h6, take on c3, h7, it's coming, king to f7, queen to h5, g6, and now the move that finishes the game, h8 knight. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I have to say, when I saw this game the first time, I was mightily impressed. h8 knight. And the game finished shortly after. Knight to h4. You cannot even touch this rook on d4 because of knight to f5, and I'm checkmating you in the next few moves. He did not resign. He played the move king to g8, knight to f5, c2, queen to g6. A few checks, and knight to h6 finished the game because you do get checkmated finally. And once again, you still cannot touch this rook on d4. If you take, I just simply go king to g8, knight to f5, king to f6, queen to g5 first, and then I pick up the queen, and that's game over. So far, so good. Again, round, I believe this is round 5. Moving on to round 6. This was, wow, what a game. With the black pieces against a tremendous player, Ivanchuk, who is one of the most well-prepared players on the planet, or at least has been. I'm not 100% sure whether it's still the case nowadays, but he used to be a second for Vasily Topalov during his World Championship matches, and he also used to work with Ali Reza in more recent times. Now, I'm not 100% sure who he's working with right now. He's also a very active player. He gets to use his preparation. Not in this one, though. Take a look at what happened. And I've started off very early because this game only lasted 20 moves or something along those lines. a3, bishop c5, bishop to g2, d6, castle, rook to e8, take, knight to e5. Everything seems to be more or less fine. Not anymore. You just lost the pawn on c4, knight to a4. You think you're getting some sort of compensation. Think again. Rook to d1, bishop takes f2. Whoa. Absolutely brilliantly calculated by Hans. Knight to g4, king to e1. I mean, sure, you can go to g1, but it doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to go b5. You cannot retreat with the knight on c3, and this is the idea behind this whole tactical shot that he engaged in, that Hans engaged in, because of queen to b6. Once my queen lands on this diagonal, this is pretty much game over. And just to show you this beautiful and very technical and very well-known pattern, knight to h3, double check. If you go to f1, queen to f2 comes with a checkmate. If you go to h1, this queen to g1 and knight to f2. That's it. All she wrote. Beautiful. So Ivan plays the move king to e1. He's like, I'm not going to stay on this diagonal. I'm not going to expect this queen to b6. I know that once that queen lands on b6, it's game over. I don't want to see that. b5, rook to d4, knight to e3, queen to c3, bishop to d5. Another great move and well-calculated move. Bishop to e4, take, bishop to d5, queen to d2. I take first your knight. And the problem is that after rook takes a4, the move that finishes the game out of nowhere, first of all, I mean, look, I'm already a pawn up. I have a tremendous bishop against your knight on h4. But what finishes the game is the next move. Rook to e5, rook to d4, sorry, not the next move, but the move after g5. Because the knight doesn't have where to go. You go to f3, I just take it, you're pinned. You go to g2, I just take it. You go to f5, I just take it. The knight is lost. You're going to be a full piece down. And Ivan said, I've had enough. Thank you for the game. Let's move on to the next one. And the next one is the game that happened today. And Hans defeated Ivan Sokolov as well. Ivan Sokolov is nowadays used to be, I mean, everybody knows Ivan Sokolov. He's an absolute legend. He has a very well-known interview post one of his, I believe, losses at one of the Tata Steels. Maybe I'll put it somewhere around here right now. But a tremendous player nowadays, mostly a coach and a captain. He's very well known for being the captain of the Uzbek team that won the Olympiad in 2022 in India. After that, he went on to work for Romania, and right now he's leading the Romanian Olympic team. So take a look at this. Hans with the white pieces. His next move is absolutely tremendous. Knight to g5, offering up simply a piece. Would you like to take my piece? The right answer should have been no. I would not like to take your piece. The best move in the position is the move g6, but this is such a difficult move to make because you start seeing ghosts in the position. You start seeing ideas such as rook to h4, pin you down. You have to defend with king to g7. And now even ideas of rook takes h6, I understand they don't work. But in the heat of the battle, you see this type of attacks brewing up in the position and you get scared. You start getting scared. Simple as that. Knight to e6 is a move as well. Knight takes f7, any sort of discovery attacks. There's too many pieces involved into the attack, and from a human's perspective, you start getting scared. You try to find a way to bail out, and that's exactly what Sokolov did as well. He tried to find a way to bail out. After taking on g5, bishop takes g5, you have to defend against the checkmate. There's a checkmate coming. Unfortunately for you, you don't have the move g6 because everybody knows this pattern, or at least, a lot of people know this pattern, king to g8 and now rook to h4, and there is no stopping rook to h8. That's it, game over, right? Whatever you do, it's game over. I don't even have, if you want to go knight to f5, I'm not going to pick up the queen on d5. I'm just simply going to checkmate you with rook to h8. So that's it. He said, this is how I'm going to bail out. I'm going to take your piece and then I'm going to give it back with the move knight to f3. The problem is, after queen takes f3, we take. I'm a pawn up, And I also have tremendous position given by the fact that my majority on the king side is going to be very mobile, but also I have tremendous potential on the g file as well. And we will see how he managed to take advantage of that, stop any sort of counterplay on the queen side, bishop to d2, transfer the bishop to a nice square, from which potentially I will be able to open up the long diagonal and put pressure on g7, definitely cement this knight to the defense of the pawn on g7. So a very nice maneuver by Hans, bishop to d2, bishop to c3, looking at the pawn on a5, looking at the pawn on g7 as well. King to h2, bishop to b4, rook to g1, absolutely brilliant, forcing the move g6, which is going to lock up your rook from going on the other side. Rook to d1, rook to d5, and after rook to d6, in fact, Sokolov, despite the fact that you're only one pawn down, and that pawn is a doubled pawn, you're completely lost, completely busted, and he said, also, I've had enough. Thank you very much. If you try to defend the pawn with the move rook to b7, I'm going to go f5. You cannot take on f5 because of rook takes h6. And if you go king to h7 or king to d7, for example, first of all, I can go f6, king to h7. Now I can pick up the pawn on c4. I can even try to go rook to d8 and set up some sort of a checkmating pattern on the 8th rank. Absolutely brilliant play by Hans right now. And that takes him to a tremendous rating. He's been struggling this year. He's been losing a lot of rating, going from 27, I believe, close to 2710, all the way to 2640 something, 2650. But now he's back. Take a look at this. Right now, he is back at position 44. He's winning 30 rating points in the last couple of events, the Grand Swiss in the Isle of Man, and this one, Tournament of Peace. I have to say he's doing tremendously well, playing brilliant chess. I'm very excited to see how he's going to continue this shape in the upcoming events. This is not his last event of the year. He's going to play the London Chess Classic, and after that he's going to follow up with Tata Steel, the Challengers section in January 2024. So I'm very excited to see where those two tournaments are going to take Hans. He might be going straight shot to 2700 going into 2024. Exciting times, guys. See you in the next video.